Good evening, Dhamma friends. Let us start this evening Sutta study class with wholesome thought in mind. I'm sorry for being late for 3 minutes because I had another program from 7 to 7:55, so that I got some minutes to get ready for this session. That's why I was late. Let me begin the Sutta study class by welcoming you, those who join with us through Zoom, YouTube, and also live stream. You are mostly welcome to this wonderful session of investigating the Buddha's teaching on discourses. Let me begin the recitation of Namo Tassa 3 times in Pali and in English, just to pay our due respect to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, friends. Now we are going to begin our Sutta studies with the selected discourse. The discourse we keep as our theme is Anathapindikavada Sutta. It means advice to Anathapindika. I know that many of you can guess what this discourse is about because of the word Anathapindika. Everyone is aware of the person Anathapindika, how great he had been during the time of the Buddha. So that I do not find any difficulty in explaining the Sutta, I guess, because you know something about it. Anathapindika, that name was given to him because of his generosity. His name was something else. So when you do something great, you are given some titles. That's what happened to this particular multimillionaire. So when we talk about Anathapindika, we have a lot to talk about. However, one of the greatest things he had was his faith or confidence, unwavering feeling about the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. He did not want to go and question the Buddha different things, even though he thought about. For example, we somehow managed to think about Dhamma and we stuck with some questions about Paticcasamuppada, about karma, about this and that. So what we always think, okay, we should ask these questions from the monks who know well, or maybe lay people who know well. And we go and ask. But Anathapindika was not like that. He was thinking about the Buddha's rest because he, having built the huge monastery, even at that time and even today, he understood the fact that Buddha was busy by delivering the message of the Dhamma to bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, even lay people who visited the monastery. So he was quite sure about the daily schedule of the Buddha. Therefore, even though he went to the monastery every day, he did not ask questions from the Buddha, Dhamma-related questions from the Buddha, because he wanted Buddha to stay out of those questions from him. But he did not ask anyone to stop questioning because he, on the other hand, knew that people wanted the Buddha to clear certain things. So this is extraordinary from Anathapindika's behavior, that he had the greatest Shraddha about the Buddha. At the same time, he did not want to question. And then, as you know, Anathapindika was significant in the sense of, transferring the Dhamma to his children. He had a daughter who was very good in the Dhamma, but he had a only son. He had a son that was the only son. According to my understanding, he was not a follower of the Buddha. He was playful and just like average boy, spending money from a father, and had a luxurious life. So he wanted his son to be like him. So what he was doing, he asked his son to go to the Jetvanarama monastery and see around. And if he, came back with all this information, the promise was to give 1,000 gold coin. And this young man was really interested to have 1,000 gold coin for his, playful things. So that he went to the monastery and saw the around and explained the details of the monastery to his father to get the 1,000 gold coin. Next day, as a skillful father, asked the son to go to the monastery and see the Buddha and listen to some Dhamma and remember them and deliver them to the father. So out of a strong desire for money, this young man went to the monastery and met the Buddha where he was and listened to some sermon. Now the Buddha saw the father's plan, and the Buddha delivered the Dhamma, specially directing this young man. So then during the sermon, the son of the Anathapindika understood the Dhamma and attained to Sotapanna state, and now he was ashamed of what he was doing. In order to get money, he was doing anything and he felt ashamed. And then that kind of things was done by Anathapindika just to turn his son into the Dhamma. So it is a very nice story. So here we are not to tell other stories of Anathapindika, but what exactly we have in the discourse is the main theme of our Sutta discussion. Friends, let me start the reading first, then we can get into the Dhamma. Thus, I have heard on one occasion the Buddha was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Guru Anathapindika's park. Now, on that occasion, the householder Gahapati in Pali, the word Gahapati means householder. You all are householders because you live in houses. You stay in lay life. You belongs so many material things, including houses. Therefore, you are called Gahapati. If we rightly mention about you, you are a Gahapati. Gahapati, Upasaka and Upasika. So householder Anathapindika was afflicted, suffering, and gravely ill. So now we can see that Anathapindika was not able to move as he did. Now he has come to the old age and experience physical pain, which is common to every one of us. I'm relatively in the close to middle age, but I know the fact that if I live for another 30, 40 years, I would definitely, like some of us in the group, experience so many difficulties. I know the fact that so like that, everyone should understand that we have a date that we cannot walk, cannot see as it was before, and every faculties could come to a state of malfunction. There are doctors here and they know better than us. And everyone is aware that how this body works. So Anathapindika, despite his enormous, continuous meritorious event including giving dana to all the monks at the monastery each day, and then building the greatest monastery ever in the Gautam Buddha Sasana, and many meritorious. Now he is experiencing suffering, and it is because of the changing patterns of the physical body that made by four great elements. Then he addressed a certain man, thus could be a servant. Come, my good man, go to the Buddha, pay my homage in my name with your head at his feet, and say to the Buddha, Venerable Sir, the householder Anathapindika is afflicted, suffering, and gravely ill. He pays homage with his head at the Blessed One. So Anathapindika, while having such a great pain in his body, called upon one of the servant and told him that you might go to the monastery and worship the holy feet of the Buddha by my name near his feet, and tell that I am experiencing physical problems, and pay my respect and get blessings. Then after that, he said, Anathapindika said to this person, after going to visit the Buddha, you might go to Venerable Sariputta and worship his feet by my name near his feet, and said that I am gravely ill, I'm suffering from various problem, pain. So ask him to come to my house out of respect. Here we do not see that Anathapindika wanted Buddha to come to his house and give some spirit chanting or whatever, Dhamma Samano. But he wanted Venerable Sariputta. Why? You can find out during the discussion, because simply Anathapindika liked Venerable Sariputta very, very much. It doesn't mean that he did not like the Buddha, but he had an enormous respect to the Buddha. That's why he did not want to talk to the Buddha all the time. But Venerable Sariputta was such a wonderful person in the Sasana, and so Anathapindika had a very good relationship with Venerable Sariputta. So now, while lying on the bed, Anathapindika wanted to see Venerable Sariputta and talk to him. So then this man went to the monastery and did as Anathapindika instructed. He went to the Buddha and worshipped the feet and reported the matter to the Buddha. Then went to Venerable Sariputta's kuti and worshipped the feet of Venerable Sariputta and said that, Venerable Sir, your good friend Anathapindika was ill and he wanted you to be there for him to, relax himself or get some Dhamma. Then Venerable Sariputta, dressed and taking his bow and outer robe, went to the residence of household Anathapindika with the Venerable Ananda as his attendants. Now, Venerable Sariputta did not go alone, and he asked Venerable Ananda to accompany with him. Venerable Ananda was also a good friend very close friend of Anathapindika. Now both great monks went to Anathapindika's house and sat down near the bed and asked from Anathapindika, I hope you are getting well, householder. I hope you are comfortable. I hope your painful feelings are subsiding and not increasing, and that they are subsiding and not their increase is apparent. So Venerable Sariputta said that I hope you are getting well. I don't think your situation is getting bad, worst. So you must be okay now. But Venerable Sariputta, Anathapindika said that no, something otherwise happening. I cannot bear this pain. It is too much. It's just like somebody take a belt and tie my head over here, around here, and drag to different directions. So I feel so much pain in my head. and I feel my stomach is attacked by some people with sharp knives, and it's so much difficult to bear. It is increasing. Physical pain is too much, increasing, cannot bear the pain. So there's a long count of his suffering in the sutta. You can read it. So this is basically what he was telling, is that it is unbearable. The pain is too much. Then what do you do exactly if you visit your relative or friend when they are sick? What exactly you say? How how is your physical composure? How is your attitudes? Basically, a lot of people cannot talk, and they are so upset about the relative illness. Maybe you are talking about what exactly doctor said, and you must be talking about, generally you must be talking about mundane things. There are handful of individuals who talks about the Four Noble Truths and suffering and Paticsampada and Punya and Kusala they did. Perhaps you do it always, Punya and Kusala. And but basically the normal setting is that you talk about something normal. But see how Arahants visited you when you are sick. They would be talking about something very, very important or and related to your mental peace and happiness. They disregard the physical suffering. They do not want to talk about it anymore. That is the part of the patient's duty with the doctor, or the doctors and nurses duty. So you as arhants know what exactly this person experienced, so that arhants have compassion to uplift your mind to a state of mental state of peaceful mental state. So Venerable Sariputta directly addressed very important things here. Then householder, you should train thus. I will not cling to the I, and my consciousness will not be dependent on the I. Let me repeat. I will not cling to the I, and my consciousness will not be dependent on the I. Thus you should train. You should train thus. Again, I will not cling to the ear, and I will not, and my consciousness will not dependent on the ear. And I will not cling to the nose, and my consciousness will not be dependent on the nose. And I will not cling to the tongue, and my consciousness will not cling to the tongue. And I will not cling to the body, and my consciousness will not be dependent on the body. And I will not cling to the mind, and my consciousness will not be dependent on the mind. Thus you should train. That is the first important factor Venerable Sariputta said here, out of many. Basically, what is the meaning behind this is that your body is aching, your body is painful. You cannot even concentrate well on what is going on in the body, because when you have a great pain, we are out of balance. We cannot pay our attention to a particular thing. However, there is one thing that we all can do if we have enough training, that we reflect, or we yoniso manasikara, that the I is not, I do not cling to my I do not upadana, I do not attach to my eyes, which means that I do not consider that the eyes, my eyes are not really mine, because, and then my consciousness will not be dependent on the I. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? So it's a question for you. When you start talking about it, you can answer. So basically, Venerable Sariputta advised Anathapindika, who is gravely ill, to think that eyes, ears, the nose, the tongue, the body are not mine, and I do not attach to any of those five faculties, five, senses, and my consciousness, which means my mind are not depending on anything. Actually, these five senses at the moment, my mind should not depend on, my mind should not based on the five senses. Why do we think like that? Why did Venerable Sariputta asked Anathapindika to think in such a way? Because simple answer is that the body is painful and you feel it. So if you think that this body is mine and you feel great pain more and more, but if you can let go of the attachment to your eyes, ears, the nose, the tongue, and the body, it means your whole body, you could protect your mental peace. You could gain that mental peace and maintain it in a certain way. That is what we need when we die, when we gravely ill. What we need is that mental power as a matter of overcoming physical suffering, and let doctors and nurses and healthcare workers treat us so that you do not cry. And a lot of people, when they get sick, become so upset. They feel that everything is gone, that because they lack of this practice. So that is what we have here. It's open to discuss when we start discussion. So that is the first phase of the instruction. Secondly, householder, you should train this. You should train thus. I will not cling to forms, whatever you see from your eyes. And I will not cling to sounds. And I will not cling to, smell. I will not cling to flavors. I will not cling to tangible objects. And I will not cling to mind objects. I forgot to mention about the mind as the sixth sense before. So all six senses are considered. And now we are considering the sensory objects. Now you should train your mind to accept the fact that those sensory objects such as form and sounds and taste, smell, tangible objects, and also, what you call mind objects, Dhamma, they are not, I do not attach to them, and my consciousness are not going to dependent on these form, sounds, taste, smell, and so on. So could you see the line here that you are taking the belonging parts out of these things? In other words, you let go of the desire for your own body, your own way of creating your mind, right? This is a kind of vipassana training at the very last moment of Anathapindika's life. Actually, this is the last moment of Anathapindika, indeed. So you are asked to practice anicca dukkha anatta. In other words, you are asked to reflect non-self nature of your life, which means you are entering into nirvana. How about if you can take such a wonderful Dhamma at the last moment into your mind? You are dying without fear. You are down without any residue of defilement, right? So let's see what happened after that. So now two important phases of the reflection are told. You are going, Venerable Sariputta asked to think that you should not, I should not attach to six senses. Then in the second phase, I should not attach, I do not attach to sensory objects, and my mind is not depending on those six senses and sensory experiences. The third phase is like this. Householder, you should train thus. I will not cling to eye consciousness. I will not cling to ear consciousness. I will not cling to nose consciousness. I will not cling to tongue consciousness. I will not cling to body consciousness. I will not cling to mind consciousness. And my consciousness will not depend on eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and also mind consciousness. So thirdly, we focus the consciousness, namely 6 type of consciousness. We learned this before: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue, and body and mind related consciousness. So now you take this idea that this is not mine and I do not attach to it. And my mind, consciousness is different from the mind in a subtle way, because we always talk about consciousness is related to the feeling part of your mind. Sorry, consciousness is the representation of our mind on senses, in the senses. So that is a kind of type of mental participation in the whole process. So now you are thinking, or you are investigating, or you are reflecting that the consciousness, my mind basically will not depend, is not depending on whatever the consciousness produces. Again, step by step, your attachment is broken down into pieces. Your sakkaya is taking out of your mind. Your mana is broken into and falling apart, falling apart of it. So that is the third phase. Now we go to the fourth one. Householder, you should train thus: I will not cling to the eye contact. Right after the senses, you have sensory objects, then the consciousness part, then contact, passa. So you train your mind to accept the fact that I do not cling to eye contact. Then I do not cling to ear contact, then nose contact, tongue contact, and body contact, and finally mind contact. Which means you let your passa happens or contact happen, and you are not going to cling to it. You are not going to put icing on it. Let it happen as it is. So that's what Venerable Sariputta asked Anathapindika to do. Actually, when Venerable Sariputta started the sermon, Anathapindika listened to it carefully because of 2 reasons, in my understanding. One is Venerable Sariputta is the closest friend to Anathapindika, and Anathapindika had Shraddha, proper Shraddha for Bhikkhu, especially Venerable Sariputta. So he was not finding any difficulty to listen to Venerable Sariputta out of respect. At the same time, there should be a third point, that Anathapindika was such a wonderful follower of the Buddha who could listen to the Dhamma very well. Let's find out what exactly he said at the end of the discourse is something different. But basically, because of this reason, Anathapindika, by overcoming that physical pain or leaving it aside, he was able to pay attention to the things Venerable Sariputta said. Now his mind is slowly building up, build up certain momentum of that. While Venerable Sariputta explaining these things to do, he has been doing them, which is wonderful from Anathapindika. So having explained the fourth phase of the reflection, now we move on to the next one. Householder, you should train thus: I will not cling to feeling born of eye contact. I will not cling to feeling born of ear contact, nose contact, and feeling born from body contact, and also feeling born from tongue contact, and also mind contact. Basically, we talk about the feeling, sukha vedana, dukkha vedana, and adukkam sukha vedana, born from 6 senses are considered here. Simply the feeling, aggregate of feeling. I think many of you see the connection here than the previous one, because knowing the consciousness passa would be difficult than other things. You are very good in focusing the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and sometimes mind, and also their objects, but not that easy to concentrate on consciousness and pasa, because that happened quickly. But relatively, knowing the feeling aggregate is easier than the other, because you feel cold and then you feel hot, and then you feel pain and you feel comfort. Easily you could feel that. So that uh, reflecting that I should not attach to these feeling out of eyes, out of nose, ears, and would be easier. So that is the next thing. Venerable Sariputta asked another Pindika to reflect on. And also the other part is there, my consciousness, which means in my understanding, my mind is not dependent on any type of feeling, feeling coming from six senses. That's the second phase of the fifth one. So always I do not cling to this and that, then my mind is not depending on this thing and that thing. That's the procedure or formula we should all remember. Next, householder, you should train thus. I will not cling to the earth elements. So when you comes to the feeling section, the process of creating a mind is done, basically. That's why we always start from the senses and sensory experiences and come up to the feeling aggregates. Then sanya is there as well, and rupa, all the five aggregates are being created there. So basically, a full-fledged mind or mental things has already been created when we come in the process up to the feeling aggregates. That's why we can see here that after feeling, householder, you should train thus. I will not cling to the earth elements. I will not cling to the water elements. I will not cling to the fire elements. I will not cling to the air elements. I will not cling to the space element. I will not cling to the consciousness element. And my consciousness will not be dependent on the consciousness element. Thus you should train. So after the feeling, Venerable Sariputta asked Anathapindika to reflect four great elements and space and consciousness as the fifth and the sixth. That is the highest number of elements Dhatu Buddha talks about in the teaching. 6. So where are these four elements and other two elements? Are they out of somewhere around Venerable Sariputta and Ananda and Anathapindika? Perhaps other people? No, this is the case. This physical body, and in the case of the Sutta, Anathapindika's physical body is made by four great elements. And when you have four great elements somewhere, there would be space and consciousness. With regard to any living being, there is a consciousness. With regard to material things, you have five elements. Suppose you put coconut into a bag, into a huge bag. Then coconut are ball-shaped round things. So you put coconut, and in that, so it's full tied and full of coconut, and you complete the tying the knot on top of the bag, and that's all. But inside the bag of the coconut, you have space in between among coconut. Like that, in this body, in addition to Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, you have space through the nose and inside the mouth, inside the stomach, and through ear you have space element. So that is why Venerable Sariputta said here that you should train your mind thus that I do not cling to earth element, which means any solidity, solidified parts of the body, such as bones, muscles, teeth, nails, and so on, because these are the things that gives pain now for Anathapindika. So when he thinks that this leg, this head, because he was talking about his head was so painful, and the stomach and everywhere in the body, and when Anathapindika now thinks about that this body, solid parts are not mine and I do not attach to them, the case is done. Your mind is going beyond the pain, which is a kind of solid spiritual asset of your mind. And when he reflect that water elements, which mean blood and urine and saliva and every other elements, water elements in the body are not mine. And when you think that in such a way, your mind is upgrading into peace and happiness. You do not cling to them. That is the secret for your mental peace. Like that, you reflect that air elements and heat element, perhaps you feel hot because of the bed, and you lie down, you cannot move. Somebody should be there to turn you around this way and the other way, so you feel hot. So the solution is to make up your mind that this is heat elements, this is air elements. Suppose you have a fan in front of you, and the wind is so much so that you cannot even breathe. If you feel cold, you just think that this is the air elements, this is the cold. Feeling cold is heat element. So I do not cling on to any sort of things in the body with regard to Apu and Tejo, and my mind does not dependent on them. And a space element. So friends, the very idea is to let go of the desire for physical body. So after that, householder, you should train that. I will not cling to material form. I will not cling to feeling. I will not cling to perception. I will not cling to formation. I will not cling to consciousness. And my consciousness will not depend on consciousness. So now Venerable Sariputta remind Anathapindika about the 5 aggregates of clinging, definitely. And what is the gist of the advice is that I should not cling or attach to form, rupa, vedana, feeling, again, and then perception, sanya, and sankara, and vinyana. So we can elaborate each point into greater details for hours, but basically we understand here that these are the tips of Dhamma reflection when we sick, when we become upset, when we become physically derailed. Remember them. At least take one just to reflect, so that you find your own doctor, spiritual doctor, for you to release from suffering. Doctors and nurses and healthcare workers help you to overcome physical suffering, but it is your duty, friends, to overcome mental suffering over physical suffering. This is the remedy for that. At least just keep one aspect of it in mind, just to apply to come back mentally. I do not know whether you can overcome physical problem out of this. It is unthinkable. But you can overcome mental hindrances for the moment and come to spiritual success there. So Buddha talks about the 5 aggregates, not any aggregates or anyone aggregates. Venerable Sariputta asked Anathapindika to reflect rupa of Anathapindika. Anathapindika perceive rupa and feelings and perception and so on. So he has to reflect on his own 5 aggregates of clinging, just to cut down the clinging part. Householder, you should train thus. I will not cling to base of infinite space, akasananchayatana. I will not cling to the base of infinite consciousness, viññānañcāyatana. I will not cling to the base of nothingness, kiñcaññāyatana. I will not cling to the base of neither perception nor non-perception, nevasaññānasaññāyatana. And my consciousness will not be dependent on the basis of neither perception nor non-perception. So Venerable Sariputta address here the immaterial jhana, 4 jhana, This means for us that Anathapindika was known to these immaterial jhanas. Otherwise, how could he take something new into his mind in this critical stage of life and ponder over? It means to me that he was known about the immaterial jhana and very good at that. That's why Venerable Sariputta was reminding him to reflect that I do not cling to those four material jhanas, and my mind, is not depending on them. So you do see that even when a person has such a vast experience, he has to take his mind out of the attachment to those mental peace and so on. That is the important thing. Next, how a householder you should train thus. I will not cling to this world, and my consciousness will not be dependent on this world. I will not cling to the world beyond, and my consciousness will not be dependent on the world beyond. Thus, you should train. What is that? When you come to the last moment of your life, according to the literature, Dhamma literature, about those people who die, who is near to death, feel the next birth. Depending on what you have accumulated as karma, you might feel where you go. If you had done good, you definitely feel something pleasant, something about flowers, something about beautiful areas. You must be talking about beautiful people and so on. I have such experience. One of my friend's brother was talking about the jasmine flower, garden of jasmine flower, just before he died. It is called Gati Nimitta. You are going to know about where you go. And I heard some people were talking about various ugly things. And, people have done a lot of research about this. And some people, especially those butchers who killed cows and pigs and chickens as a profession, when they were near to death, they were talking about like cows, like dogs, like pigs, and they were screaming, and they were talking about burning issues because they fell where they go because of the bad karma. So now here Venerable Sariputta is addressing that you should not cling to this life or next life. It is very relevant and very clear. Why? If Anathapindika was not able to reflect anything we already said, he was able to take the whole life now he is in now and thinks that this is not something I should attach. Because if you have attachment, you feel suffer because if you attach yourself, which means that you attach to your family, you attach to your property, and you cannot go freely. So that's why Honorable Sariputta said, I do not, I will not, or I do not cling to cling to this world means this life, and I do not cling to the next life, the life beyond it, which means you do not even to imagine to go to divine life or human life or any sort of life. So friends, if you do not have attachment to this life or any life or anything at the death moment, I think you would at least attain to Sotapanna before you die. And if your mind was so much in the Dhamma throughout your life and come to this understanding that I do not attach to any bhava or any existence, you would die you would die with the arahantship, I guess. So that is another thing we should keep in mind. Householder, you should train thus. I will not cling to what is seen, heard, sensed, cognized, and encountered, sought after and examined by the mind, and my consciousness will not be dependent on that. So what is that? Do you remember Daruchirya? What the Buddha said to Daruchirya? You should not, seeing is only a seeing. You do not put icing on it. You do not details it with various other things. Just only seeing. Suppose you see a car, it is only a seeing for you if you take it with Vipassana point of view. And if you heard about a beautiful music with dance of a group of people, and it is only a seeing movements of people, movements of Pataviya, Potejo, and it's only a sound for you if you take it well with the Vipassana understanding. So like that, what you heard, what you see, what you sense, what you cognize, what you encountered, and what you sought after, and what you examined by the mind, they are all just objects. So my consciousness is not depending on any of those seeing here. He is seeing, heard, hearing and sensing and cognizing and so forth. That is another way of cutting off of attachment. When this was said, then now Venerable Sariputta's advice for Anathapindika is done. How many important factors he said? Senses is one, sensory objects, consciousness third, then contact, phassa is fourth, and feeling five. Then after that we have elements, up to six elements. Then we had what you call for immaterial jhana, right? Seventh for immaterial jhana. Then we had we had 5 aggregates of clinging, 8, and we had this world and the world beyond, the 9th one, and the last one is kind of things you heard and seen and so forth. 10 important reflection were taught by Venerable Sariputta to Anathapindika, the particular person who is suffering gravely ill, near to dying, to reflect, to take his mind out of any suffering, any problems. When this was said, the household Anathapindika wept and shed tears. What? It is strange, right? So he was crying now. Then Venerable Ananda asked him, are you foundering, O household, or are you sinking? Which means that, are you upset? Are you really getting down from a normal level to a level where you should not be? Then Anathapindika said here, I'm not upset, I'm not foundering, I'm not sinking. But although I have long waited upon the teacher and bhikkhus worthy of esteem, never before have I heard such a talk on the Dhamma. So Anathapindika said that I have been with you, with the Buddha, with the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, lay followers for a long time, but I did not listen to such a deep Dhamma sermons like this before. Such talk, because I told you that Anathapindika did not want to question the Buddha for anything he felt, because he had a great regards for the Buddha, that the Buddha has been busy with monks and nuns and lay people. Why should I ask questions to make him more tired? And when Anathapindika again was looking for many things like monastery building and their maintenance and how business is going on and how and which way my family and servant give dana to monks and nuns and people who come to his house. So he was on the stream of wholesomeness, but he did not want to go further on beyond that because of so many good things he has been doing. That is another reason that why he could not listen to. And the other reason is that Anathapindika was gravely ill. It is a moment that everybody has kind of mind that inclines to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. For example, those conceited, those people who do not have shraddha about monks and temples and Buddha, turn their behavior completely when they become sick. I have my mother has a number of sisters, and one of the sisters' husband was so arrogant, and he never was respect monks. But some years ago, he got paralyzed. He was, and now he cannot move. Somehow his family was able to take him back into a certain good health. And when I visited his house just the same, he was crying, and he for the first time worshipped me after 20 years of my ordination. He never rest. No, I do not want him to worship me just because of my anything from my. But basically, those who have that shraddha about monks definitely worship monk. At least paid some type of respect through physical body. But this man, my Bapa, never did that. But with that terminal illness, he completely changed. His mana was gone. There are such people like that. And in this case, Anathapindika was gravely ill, and he can digest that Dhamma, whether it is deep or profound, because of the nature he experienced now. That is another reason for us to think that that Anathapindika feel this Dhamma is deep. Of course, this 10 type of reflection about us, about oneself is deep. It is not easy because it is vipassana. It is addressing the reality of life. So then after Anathapindika said that I did not listen to such a deep Dhamma throughout my life, Venerable Ananda said, such talk on the Dhamma householder is not given to lay people clothed in white. Such talk on the Dhamma is given to those who have gone forth. There should be another discussion about it. Simply, Buddha delivered the deep Dhamma to bhikkhus and bhikkhunis in many cases. Here it is said that the Buddha and the great monks like Sariputta, Moggallānanda, they did not explain these deep Dhamma to lay people. But it is not true when we look at the text, because the Arucirya was not a monk when he met the Buddha. And Pukkusati, of course, kind of monk, but what was not a fully fledged monk. And we can find such instances in the Tripitaka, in the Sutta Pitaka, that Buddha talks about Paticamuppada, the Four Noble Truths to lay people, which is controversial, this point with those instances. Anyway, we are not going to go in that direction anymore. Anyway, this is what Anathapindika was said by the Venerable Ananda. Well then, Sariputta. Well, then Sariputta, Venerable Sariputta, let such talk on the Dhamma be given to lay people clothed in white. There are clansmen with little dust in their eyes who have wasting away through not hearing such Dhamma talks in the Dhamma. There will be those who will understand Dhamma. So same as, Brahma Sampati, when the Buddha was not in a mood to deliver the Dhamma after the 7 week of Buddha's attainment, Sampati Mahabrahma came to the Buddha and said that there are people who can understand the Dhamma with less defilement. Go and please tell what you understand. The same thing is uttered by Anathapindika here, that there are lay people who have little dust in their mind, and please talk like that to those people. I'm sure that they will get it into the Dhamma. Then after giving the householder Anathapindika this advice, you know what advice Venerable Sariputta gave to Anathapindika. The Venerable Sariputta and Ananda rose from their seats and departed. Soon after they had left, the householder Anathapindika died and reappeared in the Tusita heaven. Now, the demise of Anathapindika is recorded in the Anathapindikova, the Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 143. So keep that in mind. So now he died and reappeared in the Tusita world, right? The world, the divine world where everybody is happy. That's why it's called Tusita. Then when the night was advanced, now that episode of the whole story is done. So now it is in the evening at night, around between 12 to 2 a.m. When the night was advanced, Anathapindika, now not as Anathapindika anymore, that male devotee, Upasaka, now a young god of beautiful appearance, went to the Buddha, illuminating the whole of Jeta's grove. After paying homage to the blessed one, he stood at one side and addressed the blessed one in stanza. See, it seems to me that when Anathapindika died in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening, late, early evening, and after 12 midnight, that was the time divine beings are allowed to come to the Buddha for any questions. So Anathapindika, young deity, now came to the Buddha, and he respected as he was doing in previous life, and explained something beautiful. Let me tell you that. Oh blessed is this, sorry. Oh blessed is this Jeta's grove, dwelt in by the Segli Sangha, wherein reside the king of Dhamma, the fount of all my happiness. By action, knowledge and Dhamma, by virtue and noble way of life, by these are mortals purified, not by lineage or wealth. Therefore, a wise person who sees what truly leads to his own good should investigate the Dhamma and purify himself with it. Sariputta has reached the peak in virtue, peace, and wisdom's way, and Bhikkhu who has gone beyond at best can only equal him. So he uttered 4 stanzas and he made sure to say something about Venerable Sariputta. Even he was a divine being now, the fond or affection he had with Venerable Sariputta has not done yet. It's increasing. So basically he admired the Buddha and the Jetavana monastery he made as a human, and then the Sangha of Bhikkhus and Bhikkhunis, and everything he had, he appreciated normally, has been appreciated here as a deity. This is what the young god Anathapindika said, and the teacher approved. Buddha consented with silence. Then the young god Anathapindika, thinking the teacher has approved of me, paid homage to the Blessed One, and keeping him on the right side, he vanished at once. When the night had ended, the Buddha addressed the bhikkhus thus: Bhikkhus, last night, when the night was well advanced, there came to me a certain young god of beautiful appearance who illuminated the whole of Jeta's grove. After paying homage to me, he stood at one side and addressed me in this way. So Buddha repeated those 4 stanzas. This was then after repeating that to monks, that is what the young god said. Then the young god, thinking the teacher has approved of me, paid homage to me and disappeared. When this was said, so Buddha tell the monks that what happened last night. Then Venerable Ananda said to the Buddha, surely, Venerable Sir, Buddha did not say anything about the deity. What the Buddha said is only about a deity came to me last night, illuminating the entire grove, and he explained this 4 stanzas and went. Buddha did not tell anything, but Venerable Ananda was wise to understand who this is, because at the last stanza out of 4, he is talking about Venerable Sariputta. Therefore, Venerable Sariputta said here that, Venerable Sir, it is amazing. This young god must have been Anathapindika. For the household, Anathapindika had perfect confidence in Venerable Sariputta. Buddha said, good, Ananda, good, you are right. As far as reasoning goes, you have drawn the right conclusion. That is not anyone else but young god Anathapindika. This is what the Venerable This is what the Buddha said, and the Venerable Ananda was satisfied and delighted with the Buddha's word. Friends, this is the discourse. Now, discourse is done, and time is for comments and addition, questions and anything you want.
We have comments.
Yes. Did you say something? I did not hear you. I like this discourse very much because the advice of the Buddha for any person who is ill. You do not want to do this just for someone who is going to die, Just do it for you on when you are sick.
Mute it.
Any comments and questions? If you do not have anything, just remember that there are 10 important lines of the Dhamma. You do not want to wait for any sickness. Just go to the bed today and reflect that I do not cling to my eyes, nose, tongue, ears, body and mind. Then next one, I do not cling to form, sounds, smell, taste, tangible object, and any idea of the mind. Then six type of consciousness, then six type of contact, then six type of feeling, and then what do you call elements, then 5 aggregates of clinging. What else? For immaterial jhanas, then what you heard and sense and so forth. So I'm not sure that you remember everything. There are people who can remember everything, but if you remember at least 6 or 7, go on that, and that is vipassana meditation. That is meditation for you to practice jhana as well, and every important dhamma could be developed with that reflection. Learn it so that you would, of course we all die. It is, I'm not sure whether I live for tomorrow, and you would have the same feeling because of the conditions of the impermanent condition of the life. So that we all should take these chances and teachings and reflect. That is the core of the teaching. Yes, I think you have questions. Do you?
So, answer. The similar discourse was given to Nakula Upasaka also by Sariputta. Am I correct? I remember.
Yes.
Yes. So that is whether if because he was sick and he was old, and Sariputta said, even your body is sick, don't make your mind sick. And then he went on explaining this, not to get attached to these things. What is the name of that discourse from Sainansa?
It's not like this Anatha Pindiko Punnovada Anada. It's by their name Nakula. I think it's Nakula Mata, Nakula Pita Sutta, as I remember. I could find it and send it to you and everyone. I do not want to make any mistakes by speculating. It is about, now there are a couple of discourses, Gilana Sutta, Nakula Mata, Nakula Sutta, Nakula Pita Sutta, and so on. I will check it out and let you know.
The other thing, Swarnansa, that when a deity, what I understand is deity, he doesn't have only the nama part of he doesn't have the body. If you take the divine being, he's having only the nama section of the 5 aggregates, right? Not the body. Is that correct?
This is the case, they do not have a body like us. The body that humans and some animals, of course, or each animals have is one, category, but the divine beings and Brahman, with the word divine being, Deva, with the word Deva, we consider both 6 divine world and also 16 Brahma realm. They have they have bodies actually, but they are not like human. They are not like other living beings. And Preta also they have, but because to be a being, B-E-I-N-G means Satta, you should have Nama and Rupa. Otherwise, there's a particular divine existence called they have only Nama, no Rupa, and so on, Asanyatala. But out of that, in addition to that, all the other realms, has physical bodies, but they are not different. They are not same as us. There are some certain dimension on that. So to say that, what I take is that one day, this is recorded in Digha Nikaya, as I remember. I cannot remember the discourse. A deity came to the Buddha, and he was standing. Because of the lightness of the body, radiant colors, very thin body, he was sinking down to the earth. Then Buddha asked this Brahma, to make his body rough in order to stand on the earth. So Buddha clearly said that just make your body little bit rough nature so that you can stand. You are sinking down on the earth. So there are such instances that that for us to think that divine beings have physical bodies, because they attach, what do we mean by attachment? We attach to Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Basically we attach to Namakanda, but Namakanda is depending on Rupakanda. When there is no Rupa, there is no Nam, according to Paticcasamuppada Desna in Mahanidana Sutta. So both rely on each other. So divine beings feel that in literature, Dhamma literature, we have these things like when just before they depart from the divine existence, they feel tired, they feel exhaustion, they feel thirsty, they feel different kind of physical problems. And so according to those stories, and one divine being sees the other divine being, which means you see the physical body. So the divine beings have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body and mind, and they have the respective objects as well. So that we can accept the fact that they have rupa kanda, but not like human or animal. Because the other thing is that Buddha and Venerable Moggallana and Mahakassapa and all the great monks, time to time, engage with divine beings in divine work. If, for example, Bhakka Sutta in Samyutta Nikaya, Bhakka Brahma was arrogant about his skills. Therefore, he thought that he was the creator of everything. And then Buddha visited with the Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Moggallana, Mahakassapa, Anuruddha, and I can remember the other monks. They all went there and did miracles in front of Bhakka. And then Brahma thought that how wonderful these monks and the Buddha. And then there was a contest between the Buddha and Bhakka did some miracles, and Buddha found all these miracles, and Buddha started doing his miracles based on his skill, and Bhakka was defeated. And then so what I wanted to tell here is that when the Buddha visited divine existence, they felt that the Buddha is their own divine being. So Buddha was able to turn his body into such state wherever he was in the divine existence, so that this shows us a fact that it is a kind of rupa, and even arahants who have skills to do that can have that form, which means they have nama for that as well. So to me, in my they have rupa kanda, otherwise they cannot create greed, hatred, and ignorance, because divine beings have greed, hatred, and ignorance. Yeah. Their dimension is different actually. That's, but in Sakkapanya Sutta of Digha Nikaya, Venerable Kumarakassapa answered some very funny questions of Payasi Rajanya, Prince Payasi, and he clearly said that if you want to see the divine existence, there is only one way, that is developing your mind into that state. So when you attain to jhana and then to five supernormal powers, that is the channel you make within just to see them. It's just like you cannot see the details of the sun or any star by your physical eye. But if you have a particular glass or whatever, binocular, whatever it is, telescope, you can see the details. Without it, you cannot see. Like that, you turn your mind into jhana, then develop the five supernormal powers, at least couple of, especially Dibba Chakku. Then you can communicate with them, which means your ability to see the other dimension is developed. So through your mind, you can perceive those forms, physical bodies. That is recorded in Payasi Rajanya Sutta of the Digha Nikaya.
Swami sir, I have a question. Was he attained, Anathapindika was attained the state of Sotapanna just before he was dying, while he was listening to Venerable Sariputta?
That was the thing I wanted to tell, but I somehow forgot it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that is a question actually, unsolved questions. Some say that he attained to Sotapanna state well before all these things happen. Do you remember how he encountered as Sudatta with the Buddha? He went to the neighboring city to meet one of his friends, and then he heard the word Buddha, and he could not sleep because his mind was away from five hindrances, which means he entered into a kind of jhanic experience. That's why his mind was illuminated. So from that onward, he actually built the monastery. He made the Sangha, Buddha's ministry, move forward with so many good things. And it is said in the academical studies about Anathapindika that he attained to Sotapanna somewhere in these scenarios. And the other thing is that he attained to Sotapanna while he was listening to this sermon. But I'm not sure. For me, I do not have any strong argument based on facts that he got into enlightenment during his lifetime, except one or two. But in this discourse, he was advised by Venerable Sariputta with deep Dhamma, which is necessary for someone to cut off the Sakkaya Ditthi, Vicikicca, Silabbata, Paramasa. But there is no indication in the Sutta itself that he attained to Sotapanna right after the discourse, but commentaries made some comments on that he attained to Sotapanna with this discourse, and some says no. Actually, commentary is also not clear very much, but some says because of that he got into enlightened Sotapanna level somewhere when he listened to other Dhamma discourse, maybe some other reason. So it's an unsolved questions.
Right. And also, Swami Nohansa, what are those four jhanas mentioned there by Arahant Sariputta? Those jhanas are always good. Like what kind of jhanas are good that you mention? Sometimes you also mention.
Yeah, they are immaterial. We are called immaterial jhana. In Pali, arupa jhana. Akasananchayatana, Vinyananchayatana, Akinchanyayatana, Neva Sanya Nasa. They were well popular among many mendicants even before the Buddha. Buddhakaramputra and Alarakalam, they were attaining to those levels, Akinchanyayatana, Nevasanyana. But they are very good practices. And Buddha's recommendation for someone to gain this jhana well after the 4 jhanas. First jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. First, second, third, fourth jhana are discoveries by the Buddha.
Right.
They were not, topic of conversation or discussion before the Buddha. But these immaterial jhana were in the system of the religion well before the Buddha. So, why, yeah, it is a good question. Why Venerable Sariputta did not talk about first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, but only immaterial jhana? It is strange. The reason is that when you attain to first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, there is a great chance for you to cut off Sakkaya Ditthi in each places. In Attakanagara Sutta, Venerable Ananda's discourse, he said that you can attain to enlightenment when you are in first jhana, just by reflecting the jhanic mind, first jhanic mind as anicca dukkha anatta. So that the first jhana, second jhana, fourth jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana are in the Noble Eightfold Path, but immaterial jhanas, as we mentioned, are not in the Noble Eightfold Path. But in suttas, we can see that when the Buddha explained the path to Arahantship, he added these 4 into full Cheto Vimutti.
And these jhanas are like always obtained by people who are meditating, and not particularly have to be a Buddhist. Other non-Buddhists also attain jhanas.
With these 4 immaterial jhanas, yes, because Alarakalam, Uddakaramputra, these are the 2 individuals who mentioned in the discourses that attain to these levels. But there could be many people, many mendicants like that. In that, even today in India, we can expect people, yogis who are in this state.
Yes.
But Buddha included these 4 immaterial jhana into the system as deliverance of mind, as taking mind out of certain mundane things. Because when you are in Akasananchayatana, what you feel is that your mind is mainly focusing on space,
Right.
infinite. So that is not a material object.
Right.
That's why I call arupa jhana. Jhana, which is taken or absorbed not through a material object. It's called immaterial jhana.
So there's no use of doing that because it's not about any object. So we are not concentrating on anicca dukkha anatta. So
it's useful to do that. Definitely. Now, if you attain to arahantship as ubato bhaga vimutta, that is the full arahantship. You have to include these 4.
Okay, all the first 4 and the other 4.
Yeah, indeed. And first 4 and these 4 and the sanya vedeta nirodha are called 9 important cheto vimutti. And there are other things also: metta cheto vimutti, karuna cheto vimutti, mudita, and so on. But these are the 9 things that you master on if you complete that session, then wisdom part. So ubato bhaga means you have been completing both sides. So you go on jhanic experiences as well as panya section. In other words, you practice samatha and vipassana both to the highest. So when you practice samatha meditation, the highest is those 4 jhanas and also immaterial jhana. And in vipassana, your focus is to understand anicca dukkha anatta, and which means the complete culmination of wisdom. So there are arahants who complete both sides, called ubato bhaga. So it is included.
Right.
But if you do not want it, it's fine. It's not compulsory though.
Right. So, but Swaminathan, how do we know that we are going to jhanas? Like while listening to a Dhamma sermon, and we are fully like listening to it and thinking about it like Yoniso Mansikara. So we are like naturally going to a maybe state of another jhana, right?
Yeah,
Because
if
it's
you
like a
can,
meditation.
yeah, if you cannot attain to jhana while you are listening to Dhamma sermon, the option is really, really simple. So don't try to attain jhana while listening to. Just take another moment, another session, uh, free from all the listening and do it completely. Because we are not that super genius
Mhm.
to do that, and we don't have arahants claim as arahant in the society. Of course, we have arahants who claim them as arahants, but we are not sure that they are arahants.
Right.
So that we do not have the relationship with arahants. If we have arahants, we could have definitely, I think many of us will do it well, and so that we don't have that support. So that my suggestion is to listen to Dhamma, keep them in mind, reflect them over and over again, then take times to go into higher experiences, right? And then as a result, you would be able to cross over these jhanic experiences. In my understanding, attaining first jhana, second jhana are not that difficult, friends.
Not difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you
It
understand,
happens naturally, Swaminathan. Like, I mean, it's not like thinking about going to jhanas, but when you're fully concentrated, so you don't listen anything outside, only you are thinking about that. So I don't know.
yeah, we'll talk about that later on, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we like to discuss the Dhamma more and more, and we of
Yeah.
course have the taste of it, but some people won't do it now, I guess. Is there,
Hamdunne,
yes?
now, to my understanding, there are only 4 dhyanas, no? First, second, third, fourth.
Very with that word
And
actually,
out of the four,
Yeah.
what is material and what is immaterial? Because in the end, there are only 4 dhyanas.
yeah, true. When the Buddha within the Noble Eightfold Path, we have only 4 jhanas. But Akasananchayatana, Vinyananchayatana, Akinchanyayatana, Nakansananchayatana are also called in the system as jhana because they are absorption. One has to put their mind into that by way of reflection. I think
So they will all have to come within these 4 dhyanas, no Hamdunne. They
yeah,
will all have to come within the 4
definitely.
dhyanas.
What you
There's
said is
Arupa
right.
dhyana, Rupa dhyana and Arupa dhyana.
Yeah. First, you have to master on the four jhanas as mentioned in Samadhi. And then only Buddha's advice is to go to the Akasananchayatana and so on. Otherwise, there is no indication that you go to the Akasananchayatana and so on, then they look at the 4 jhanas. So yeah, the method is to go into 4 jhana in the Samadhi section. And then if you do not want to go to Akasananchayatana and so on, it's fine. Because you can attain enlightenment without that.
But Akasanyayatana and Nevasanya all come within one of those 4 dhyanas.
No.
Like
They're different.
neither person.
They are different.
Yeah, but aren't they in one of the 4 dhyanas?
No. They are totally different.
Otherwise, you have to.
They are not within the jhana. They are not from the four jhana starting from Akasananchayatana up to Nevasana, Nasanyayatana are not in the 4 jhana. They are separate 4 things.
But now, Hamdun, I'm just talking here for discussion. When Buddha went to the Buddhakarama Putra, his final dhyana was the Nivasanya Nasanya. That was the 4th dhyana.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if there are other dhyanas, then there has to be 5th dhyana, 6th dhyana, or others are jnana. aren't they called jnana, or I don't know?
No,
I'm just confused here.
What exactly Buddha mentioned in Arya Pariyesana Sutta and Mahasatya Sutta is that they are not sufficient enough for him to find the truth of suffering. That's why he left those teachings. Which means that those Akinchanyayatana and Nevasana and Nasanyayatana are not strong enough or not the way for Prince Siddhartha, Akashic Siddhartha to find solutions for suffering. But he saw the importance of them at that moment, because he said that if Alara Kalama and Uttaraputra had Shraddha, Virya Samadhi, Sati Samadhi Panya on those attainments, I also have those things so that he attained to those two attainments very quickly. But they were not sufficient enough for Astic Siddhartha to get into enlightenment. That's why he left. With this statement from the Buddha, we can say that they are very good, but not in the system of the Noble Eightfold. But Buddha included them in the Ubato Bhagavata Arahanship. That those monks go into Akasananchayatana, Vinyananchayatana, Akinchanyayatana, Nivasanya, Nasanyayatana as a kind of experiment, kind of practices. They are not jnana, they are jhana. I will explain these things later on with detail. For the moment, I think it's close to 9:30. So we have gone maximum time period for the Sutta discussion, so that I just want to in today's discussion with that. Thank you very much for coming to Sutta discussion. And if there is any support we get out of this discussion, that is wonderful. And we listen to the story of Anathapindika, particularly when he was spending his last few moments, and what exactly Venerable Sariputta said is remarkable, and it is applicable for all of us. Just take that 10 phase of reflection about us, about you. That is the actually core of the sutta. So that is the advice to Anathapindika, and it is advice for all of us. Having said that, I stop the sutta discussion here, and I wish you the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem. May you all attain to Supreme Nibbana soon. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.